Hello friends! Today is the 5th Sunday of the month. Do you know what that means? Do you remember? It's the 5th Sunday Craft with Friends collab. This month I invited Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIY and Helena from the DIY next door. Two amazing creators to join me in this collab. What happens is, in case you're new, I curate a box of crafting supplies. All 3 boxes are exactly the same. I send 2 of them to 2 of my friends here on YouTube, and then we create with them, and then we see how we create differently or the same. So this week, are we going to create differently or the same? I think I created differently, but let's see. Let's get started. Okay, here are all the items that I sent to Brenda and Jelena. So I sent this beautiful decoupage paper from TDS Creative and 2 of these wooden trays, a spindle, some greenery, this wooden chair leg, a little wooden pot, a little peat pot, this ceramic bird. It's not really ceramic, it's plaster, a drawer pull, a lantern, some little wood embellishments, and of course, some chiffon ribbon. Let's get started. I'm going to start with these 2 wood trays I picked up on the auction site that I love. They're Amazon returns. I get stuff super cheap. I don't bid on it unless I get it super cheap. I'm going to use this sanding sponge. It's not like the sanding blocks. They're very flexible. My friend Chris over at Home with Chris uses these, and she got me using them, and they are amazing. So I'm just taking the shine off of this little chair leg. It was painted beautifully, but I didn't want the shine on there because we are going to decoupage it and make it the middle sturdy piece to our tier tray. We're going to make a tier tray with those little trays, and it's going to be very unique. So this is going to be the pedestal. That's the word I was looking for, the pedestal to our tier tray. So I'm going to use the water and tear method to get the shapes that I want out of this decoupage paper, just applying a little water and tearing it gently. I've sped this up for time's sake because this video is already very long, but full of lots of creative goodness. So I'm going to just tear them to fit, and I'm going to make 1 for each side out of that piece of paper. So you'll see here very shortly that I actually made 5 and only needed 4. It's not a 5-sided leg. Okay, clean our mess up and let's grab the Mod Podge. I'm going to squirt it in this little lid. You'll notice I have a lot of these lids because this is what my peanuts come in. I make my own peanut butter. I'm kind of one of those crunchy girls, and so I have that. I'm going to take my mister and I'm going to just mist this decoupage paper. I love the mister versus a spray bottle because it gives a fine mist of water rather than, squirts of water. I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge down on my surface, and I'm going to lay this wet Mod Podge paper down. This is wet decoupage paper down, and then I'm going to just smooth it with the brush. And now I have Mod Podge on my brush, so it's going to seal that top layer down. So when I'm done, that is already sealed in. I don't even need to put another coat on top. This is beautiful. No wrinkles. I have no wrinkles in this. Okay, same thing. Now after about this one, I think I decide I can just put the Mod Podge on the whole thing. This is about 5 inches tall. So it's not really that tall, and this paper is so easy to work with that I just did the whole thing. And with that paper being wet, and it's a little bit thicker than like a tissue paper, so this worked great. And I'm not laying this down because I don't want to mess up the other side. I was too impatient to let it dry first. So now I've got it all done. We're just going to wait, give it some time to dry. And now it's all dry, and just look how beautiful it is. It's beautiful just like this. But I'm going to grab some clear wax, and I'm going to put some clear wax all over it. It does not need to be sealed because I have that Mod Podge on it. But I want to put a little bit of dark wax on just the corners of this little pedestal. But I don't want it to be too dark. We're not going to put any wax on the top and bottom because we're going to glue this pedestal, we're going to glue the trays to the top and bottom. And the glue doesn't really stick well when you use wax. So I'm going to use the clear wax on this little finial that I got on my online auction. If you have access to the Amazon pallet return pallets, and it's an auction or a place where you can go and purchase items, I highly recommend it because you can get some really good deals. Now, I think that clear wax brought out that beautiful wood, and look how good it matches. Now we're going to take the dark wax, and I'm just going to lightly buff a little bit into the corners, on the corners where that ripped paper was or is, and just age it a little bit. I don't really want to do it all over. I'm just kind of doing it on the corners, on the edges. And then I'll wipe it back a little bit with my little soft t-shirt. Now on this bottom, this is going to be the bottom tray. I'm finding the center. I'm going to place my little pedestal in the center, making sure it's in the center. And then I'm going to mark where it's going to sit, because I'm going to lift it off to put some glue on, and I want to make sure that I put it right back in that same place. So I'm going to use the Tight Bond Quick and Thick because it lives up to its name. It gives you a tight bond, it's thick, and it dries quick. You do not need a whole lot. You don't want it to be gloopy and gloppy. We're just going to put a thin layer on, and it's going to give us a good hold. I'm going to press it down very firmly, and then I'm going to grab a clamp. If you don't have a clamp, you could just put a heavy book on top. That would work great. But I have these nice clamps that my husband got for me, and I'm just going to clamp that down really tightly. And I do wipe off that excess glue that oozed out, and then I'm just going to give it some time to dry. Now that it's all dry, look how beautiful it is. So looking good so far. Let me just twist my arms around and show you all the different sides. And now we are going to attach our top tier. I found the center of it. We're going to attach it to our pedestal, and we're going to attach it with this finial. I did not realize that the screw is not long enough to go all the way through that tray and into that pedestal, but we figure out a way to make it work. So I'm going to drill a hole with my drill, just a little bit smaller than that screw. I just need to make like a pilot hole, but I was kind of afraid it was going to split on me, so I used my little center punch to get my hole, get a little indentation for my drill to go into. That is a nice handy little tool, and we have a hole. Now we're going to put the finial, screw the finial into the top piece, just like so. It's super easy, super quick. Probably one of the easiest things I did in the video. Screw that in there. Now you can see that the screw didn't come through far enough to screw it into our pedestal, but that's okay because this tight bond is going to hold it perfectly. So we're going to do the same thing we did for the bottom. I'm going to line that little screw up because it'll sit right in that little indentation, and then I'm thinking I'm screwing it down, but it's not screwing in there. It's I was kidding myself. And then I'm going to take my clamp and I'm going to clamp it down again, and I'm going to give it a little time to dry. And this is how it turned out. This little lantern came from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut the top little hanger off. Not quite sure what you would use these for. Maybe they're some type of ornaments. They have a little light inside, a little like tea light. I thought I was going to like poke that down inside there, but it wasn't poking. So I'm going to take some Farm Fresh and I'm going to paint the entire base of it with Farm Fresh, and the top little ledge and the bottom little ledge in a white color. And when that's all dry, I'm going to take some Elmer school glue. I'm going to put it in my little red lid, and we're going to do the crackle method with Elmer school glue. And I got a lot of Elmer school glue in the lid. I didn't mean to, but I did. Now I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I normally do. I had a viewer tell me that you could let the Elmer school glue dry before you put the paint on. So I thought I would give that a try. I did that in the video where I experimented with all the different types of crackle, and it does work. So I'm going to give this I don't want a thick crackle, so I'm doing just a good coat. I'm not doing a thick coat. I'm just doing a normal, just so that I get glue all over it, because I'm going to come in and do like almost a heavy dry brush or just a light paint coat with a chippy brush. So I don't want to have a whole lot of glue on there. And so I did it on the white. I did the whole piece. I gave the whole piece a coat of Elmer's school glue, except the bottom. I didn't do it on the bottom. Okay, and then once I'm going to give it some time and let it dry. And then once it's dry, I'm going to take Vintage Linen by DIY. I finally got some more of it. It's one of my favorites. And I'm going to take this chippy brush, and I'm getting quite a bit of paint on it. And then I don't know why I wipe it off, because I really want quite a bit on there. But I kind of load the brush up and then wipe the big gloppy parts off. And then I'm making sure I get it all up, like the top and the bottom, and then leaving the middle a little less painted. You can just see what I'm doing here. And because this has that ledge around it, it's not laying flat on the table, so I can continue to work. You can see how this is already starting to crackle before I even put the heat to it. So and it's more of a fine line crackle because I didn't use really thick glue. I'm going to do the same method with the weathered wood. I'm just going to do the weathered wood over everywhere that I did that original white. And I'm not going to do it super thick. I'm just going to do I want it to look like it's been outside, sitting outside. This is going to look so cute on our tier tray. Just wait and see. So I put a little heat to it, and I got just the right amount of crackle. Now I'm going to take my finger sander, and I'm just going to sand the edges just a wee bit, just around the edges, and just where there's like a little bit of that thicker paint, just, to stress it a little bit. Now I'm going to take some more of that, just the scraps and the bits and pieces of that decoupage paper with some Mod Podge. Now I'm going to apply this a little bit differently. I'm going to spritz down and mist that decoupage paper on the back side. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to put the Mod Podge on the back, on the back of the decoupage paper. There's a lot of zhuzh in this Mod Podge decoupage. Okay, and then I'm going to place it where I want it, because I don't really want to put Mod Podge all over that whole piece, and then I don't want to have to try to figure out where I want to put it. Does that make sense? I don't want to have to try to figure out where the piece of paper needs to go. So this worked out perfectly. So I'm going to do that with all the little pieces and scraps all around the edges until it just looks like, back in the day when people used to use newspapers to line drawers or cover things. They'd cover cigar boxes or whatever. So this just looks like it's kind of had a little paint job, had a little bit of paper on it. There is a little bit of a ledge right there, and so I was trying to smush it down in that ledge. But this turned out really, really cute. I'm really thrilled with how this turned out. So I just did a few little pieces here and there, and then once I got through, I did use my heat gun a little bit to try to dry it, but with Mod Podge, I don't really like to force dry it too much. And after it was completely dry, because if you try to sand Mod Podge, you know what happens, it gums up. So once it was dry, I just lightly sanded around the edges of the paper so that it did look worn and torn and all the good stuff. I'm going to take the clear wax and give it a good coat of clear wax all over. You see me doing here. And then we are going to, we'll just wipe back the excess just like we always do. And then I'm going to take my drill and I'm going to drill a hole in each side of the top for this little wire hanger. I just had this little wire and I left it out on the Craft Cottage porch. It was just some little wire and it got all rusty. And I was like, yes, So I just wrapped it around a pencil to get those little curly cues. And now I'm going to drill a hole in each side of the top of this little lantern and make a handle. Instead of having that twine handle, we're going to have a little metal wire handle. So I just put a little hot glue in there just to kind of hold it. I think it probably would stay without it because I bent and made like a little L shape for it to go in and bend around there. But I did the hot glue just to give it a little extra security, and I'm not going to be picking it up by the handle. So it's just for looks. So I think this turned out cute. Okay, we're going to add to this. So what we're going to add to it is, remember that little wooden pot? Okay, we're going to take this little wooden pot and we're going to make it look like a little terracotta pot. Now I mixed fire starter, sandy blonde, and cowgirl coral together. I just kept mixing. I think if I would have had the other orange by DIY, it would have worked better, but I didn't. I did put some wax on it to seal it, and I put some little teeny tiny scraps of greenery in it, and I was going to use that first moss you saw me there use. I didn't like it, so I'm just going to use Spanish moss because it tends to be my favorite, and it's very nature earthy looking. And I'm just going to glue a tiny little bit around the bottom of that pot, and then a tiny little bit around the base of the bottom. Don't want it to look like a birdhouse, but I did like how that just kind of made it look more outdoorsy. Then I had these little purple buds off of a little floral bush, and so I'm going to cut them and make them even tinier and put them in that tiny little flower pot, and boing, there, I just popped that one across the table. So I'm going to use my little tweezers and hold it so I can pop it in that little tiny pot. And so I did 3 little flowers and put them in. You can see stuff flying everywhere. Boy, I have a mess to clean up when I'm done. So I'm just going to put 3 of these in this little pot, and then this one will be complete. I hope you're enjoying these creations. I had a ton of fun out here putting these things together, trying to come up with something unique, but still yet something simple. I hope that you're going to enjoy the other 2 friends' videos as well. Be sure to check them out in the description box. I'll have their channels linked. I'll have their videos linked, and it will be super easy to find them. Just go down in the description box and find their videos. And if you're here from one of their videos, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Now let's get back to crafting. I love these little wood embellishment pieces. I know that our friend Brandy has them on her website as well, but these are some teeny tiny little ones. And I'm going to use the Dark and Decrepit by DIY. It is a sealer patina, and I use it as a stain. You're going to see me here use just a sponge brush. I do use gloves only because my hands are so dry and so porous. These kinds of things tend to really get in my skin, and it's hard for me to get my hands clean. And I craft a lot on Wednesdays and then go to church on Wednesday night, and it's hard for me to get my hands clean enough to go to church and not look like I've been, working a man's job all day. Okay, I'm going to you saw me put a little extra of that Dark and Decrepit around the edges. Then I'm going to take this little brush and I'm going to just like pounce a little bit of that, what is that stuff called? It's like dirt. I don't know. This one is the one by DIY. Anyway, it's just going to age it up a little bit, make it look a little bit dirty and old and antique-y. And I love this. I love this look. I'm going to do the same exact thing to this little wood embellishment. I'm going to use the Dark and Decrepit in there, and then I'm going to use some of that dirt. It's dust. It's called dark dust. I don't know what it's called. Y'all forgive me. Somebody put it in the comments. I'll put it in the comments whenever I figure it out. I'll think of it in a minute, I'm pretty sure. I don't know why I didn't show you guys what it is. Anyway, so we're going to put some Type Bond Quick and Thick, and we're going to put some hot glue just because I want it to hold quickly. I mean, the Type Bond does hold quickly. I don't know why I thought I needed to put some hot glue on there, but I did. Now I'm going to take the vintage linen and a chippy brush. I'm going to just lightly, ever so lightly, brush over the top of this little piece. And I want you to look at how beautiful those details come out. Look how gorgeous it is. And then I decided, I'm just going to go over the wood too. So I did just a very light dusting over the wood, over the edges of the wood mostly. And I really, really love how this one turned out. I hope you do too. It's just a nice little addition to a tier tray. I did seal it with a matte spray. Let's paint this adorable bird. I have this thick gray paint. It was a Rust-Oleum chalk paint, and I mixed some other color with it. I don't even know, but it's thick, and it's perfect for this because I was going to mix some Saltwash with it, and I don't even need to. I've got this chippy brush, and the paint's thick, and I'm just pouncing it all over, and it only took one coat. I'm like getting it all in all those little nooks and crannies and the little details of those flowers. Yep, get the little bristles out because that's what happens with chippy brushes. That's okay. It's what makes them do what they do. And so I have done these little birds in the past different ways, but I wanted this one to kind of look like stone. But look at all that texture we got from just pouncing that thick paint on there. Now it's completely dry. It's completely dry. Let it dry and get completely dry. And we're going to take the white wax from DIY. You can see I'm kind of at the bottom of it. I do have a bigger can of it over in my cabinet, but this little jar is almost gone. And so I'm going to take that brush, a couple different brushes, get it in the details, and put a hefty coat of this wax all over this little bird. Pouncing where it needs to be pounced. And then I'm going to give it a little bit of time and just let it settle in. And then I'm going to take this little soft car polishing cloth from Dollar Tree and my little t-shirt, and I'm not really wiping it away as much as I'm just dabbing it. I'm just going to pat it like you're patting something dry almost. And then in certain places where there's a lot of that detail like that, I'll go ahead and wipe it away because I want you to be able to stay down in the details. And then, then other places I'm just patting it. I made a teeny tiny little bow for her neck out of some chiffon ribbon, and that's it for her. She's done. Okay, watch closely or you're going to miss this one. It's super quick. This little peat pot, I'm going to take a chippy brush and whitewash the outside all the way around. I mean, it's super quick. Super quick. Then I'm going to take some chiffon ribbon and I'm going to put it around the top. Just around the top. Super quick and easy. It's all dry. It dried super quick because it was a very thin coat of paint, and that chalk paint dries super fast. Now I'm going to see how much I need to go around the top, cut it off. I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue down, and I'm going to kind of wad it up. Well, it's rolling around all over the table, getting away from me, so we're going to just lay it on my little piece of t-shirt. Okay, so I put a little piece of hot glue down, and then I'm just going to kind of wad it up, kind of pleat it and wad it, and just keep putting hot glue and just smash it up in there. See how I did that? And then I'm just going to let the chiffon ribbon fold over itself how it wants to as I wrap it around, just like that. And then when we get back to the other side, back around to the beginning, we're going to do the same thing we did to lay it down in the first place. So easy. The next thing I did was I made a little rosette. Well, I do these out of ribbon and burlap and everything, but it was a little hard with the chiffon ribbon because it kept wanting to like undo on me. So you just make a little round cone to start out with, and then you glue it down. You glue it down, and then as you wrap around, you just twist your ribbon. Twist it and then fold it down in between your fingers. Twist it, hold it down. Twist it, hold it down. You just keep going around. But this kept coming. It was so slinky. It just was not really working. But I was determined because I wanted to make this little. I wanted to make a little floret. So here we go. This is what I did. I just smushed it. Then I cut it because I needed it to be little. And that centerpiece like we didn't want to stay down in there. So you'll see in a minute. So I put some hot glue down. I smushed it all down in the hot glue. And there's that centerpiece. It was like, glue down there. Stay down in there, honey. So I smushed it down in all the hot glue and it finally laid down. I put a little bit of floral foam in the bottom of this. And I don't know why, just to take up space, I suppose. I put a little bit of messy moss, some little Spanish moss. Oh yeah, I did poke this little greenery down in there, forgot. Okay, so I put the greenery down in there, just a few little sprigs of that greenery from that stem. And look, ta-da, told you it was quick. This is another super quick one. This is one of my favorite things to do with spindles. We're just going to sand it down a little bit just to get that finish off, and then we're going to paint the whole thing with one nice thick coat of Farm Fresh. I'm going to take some clear wax, and I'm going to clear wax the entire piece. A lot of times with DIY paints, because it is water soluble and you can wet distress it, you have to be careful because if you just do one coat of paint, your wax will like wet distress it. I'm doing air quotes, wet distress it. So I did have a little bit of that with this, and that's okay because I didn't mind. I didn't mind that it kind of wiped it back a little bit. So I did the clear wax all over, and then I didn't show it on camera, but I did take my dark wax brush over there. You see it to the right. And I just, with whatever was in the brush, I kind of went over it a little bit and tied some chiffon ribbon to it. And look at it on our little tier tray. This is a little tea box that someone gifted me, and it had like a brand name on it or something. I thought I could just sand it down a little bit, but it was etched in there pretty good. But no worries, we're going to cover it up. I'm just going to sand this whole box down because it had a little bit of that lacquer kind of finish on it, but it sanded off super duper easy. So this is what it looked like. I didn't want to like sand all of the stuff off of it. It didn't really matter. We're not worrying about that. We're going to take, I believe this is vintage linen with a chippy brush, and we're just going to give it just a little coat of paint. I mean, you could paint the whole thing solid if you want to, if you had something similar. This is just the look that I wanted to get on it. You know what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to do this whole method over the whole thing. Then I'm going to take dark wax, and I'm going to dark wax it. Very gently though, not tons of wax, but just gently. And then I'm going to wipe back the excess, wipe it up, and look how pretty it is. I think it looks like a couple of tones of wood or some old worn wood, worn out, you know, I don't know. I like it. So we're going to use this side. We're going to use the drawer pull and the two more of those little wood embellishments. So we're going to paint the little wood embellishments with Farm Fresh. It's one of my favorite colors from DIY. I'm a blue girl. I like blue. If it has a tiny cast of green to it, that's okay, but I really love blue. And then I'm going to take dark wax after they're completely dry. I'm going to take the dark wax and just put a little bit of that dark wax on there. I don't want it all over it to make it completely dark, but I do want to like bring out the details because they're so pretty. And then I'm going to take clear wax. Now I used my white wax brush with the clear wax. Don't ask me why. I think I grabbed it on accident, but it was a happy accident because I love the way that they turned out. Absolutely love the way they turned out. I almost think they look a little like, like they have a little verdigris on them, I don't know. I like them. So now I'm going to take that drawer pull and I'm going to give it 2 coats of weathered wood. I painted 2 coats of weathered wood on it. It's metal, so you know how it is when you paint metal. And then I'm going to use the Shipwrecked wax by DIY. And I'm going to put a nice thick coat of it all over. And then I'm going to wipe it back because I want this to kind of match and look like it's, been outside too. Can't have something look new and something look old on the same piece, right? Well, I guess you could, but it'll be like weird and wonky and unbalanced. So once this is finished, things went a little crazy because I thought I could use, oh wait, we're going to glue these pieces down first. No, this isn't crazy. This part's not crazy, friends. This was easy. We just put a little glue, put a little wood glue, put a little hot glue, and glue it down. I did the same thing for both pieces on both sides. Glued that down and did the same thing on the other side. Now this is where it went crazy. I do not know why I thought that this was going to hold. Like I'm going to put some hot glue and some Titebond on there, and I let it sit for a little while and it was too heavy and it just fell right off. So I got some little skewers and I put them in those holes where you're supposed to have like, screws to hold it into the drawer. So I'm just putting some little pencil marks on here so I know where to drill my holes, because I'm going to drill some holes and hope for the best, because I don't always measure and drill, and this never works for me. But today it worked. God was helping me because he knew that this was going to frustrate me, and yeah. I had my praise music going on, and I was out here just singing and worshiping and having a good old time. And he said, I think I'll help a sister out. I'll help my daughter out. So it did work. I had to maneuver it a little bit, but I did get it to wiggle, squiggle, wiggle, wiggle in there. And I had to wiggle them a little bit, but it went in there. Yay. I'm going to put some hot glue down in that little pull. And then we're going to grab the messy moss. I'm like really loving this messy moss today. I'm going to just poke it all down in there. And then I'm going back to use the rest of that little greenery bunch. And I'm just going to use the tiniest little pieces and just keep cutting it and poking it. Now, I am not the best at floral arranging. I'm not going to say it doesn't turn out okay, but if you need floral arranging, don't come to me. I'm just not the best at it. But it turns out fine. I love the way this turns out. I stick my little tea bags in there, and I think it's just adorable. Let me know what you think. Thanks for joining in all the fun today, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Go ahead right now while you're still here, hit that thumbs up. Go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below. Even if you just leave me an emoji, you know I love that. You know I love the emojis. You know I'm going to respond. Go ahead and do that. But most of all, above anything else, I want you to remember to be still and know that He is God.